Hi, everyone, and hello, Pam and Melissa, all the way from LA, and Abigail and myself from Toronto. We
Yeah.
want to welcome all of you for this afternoon. I know we've been talking about leadership, and today we wanted to find out about what's the young people's perspective on leadership. And so we asked these two beautiful young women to join us and share with us some of their thoughts. So I would like for you guys to introduce yourselves and tell us what you're doing.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I just moved to LA, Long Beach last year, and now I'm working full-time in health administration and also helping out with the teens.
Excellent. Thank you, Melissa.
Hi, everyone. My name is Abigail. I just finished my 4th year at McMaster University studying psychology, and I'm living in the West in Toronto, and I'm also a teen worker. I'm really excited to be here.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us this afternoon. I know we have some questions for you.
Yeah. Abby, can I ask you? We are actually having these conversations about leadership and just how we can be better leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering, what kind of a leader would you be inspired to follow?
That's an awesome question, Auntie Pam. I think for me, one of the things that really stands out in a leader that I would want to follow is someone who's really humble and really gentle in how they approach leading me, and even just in their style of leadership. I think for me, I'm a really sensitive person, and oftentimes if we're dealing with sensitive information or vulnerable information, I tend to be very protective of myself. And so a leader that can make me feel safe, that I can trust, that usually comes when they're really humble and gentle about how they go about approaching and dealing with me. And I think that to me really stands out. And that's the kind of leader that I would want to be following long term.
Right. So you have, there's got to be a need to be safe. And what I'm hearing you, how a leader can make you safe is through that gentleness and humility.
Absolutely.
Anything else that makes you feel safe? Like, how can a leader safely lead you?
Right. There's a lot of ways that I think leaders can go about creating safe spaces for the people that they are trying to reach. Obviously, there's like the basics of confidentiality. You know, when someone shares something vulnerable with you, you want to make sure that it stays in that space. You're not going and telling other people, or even with good intentions, like to get more advice. Like, you really want to honor the conversation and them confiding in you and keep it within that space. So that's like a basic thing. But even beyond that, I think that there are moments where maybe someone is sharing, at least for me, if I'm sharing, I just want to confide. I want that emotional comfort, that sense of like, I see you, I know what you're going through, I still love you, versus like, here's the advice, this is what you should do based on what you told me. Like, there's, I think, moments where the safe space is really about the emotional tone that you're setting. And that is something that you can do intentionally just by loving the person in that moment through what they're sharing, instead of being more like goal driven of I got to fix this, right? I think that's one way to make a space safer. And overall, I just think it's based on the relationship, right? You can't expect to have a safe space with someone you've just met, or someone you just kind of see once in a while at a meeting or whatever. It's got to be a relationship where you're seeing them often. You've had multiple conversations that have been positive. You've had multiple interactions that have been positive, and you know that you guys have this relationship, that you can trust each other. That's when you can be more confident that the space you've created is really safe. It's not something that happens right off the bat, I think. Obviously, there's ways to create that space faster, but it just takes time and effort.
Yeah, thanks. So what I'm hearing you say, Abby, is a leader that you are able to follow is someone who's able to invest in you. That means it takes time. Someone who's going to see you, hear you, and keep safely honor what you've shared, and not, and the confidentiality piece.
Absolutely.
Then the other thing is just being able to guide you based on that relationship, rather than this quick fix. I'm here to fix you. I want to advise you. You shared this. I need to give you some feedback. You'd rather be heard and listened to. Did I get that right?
Yeah, you definitely got that right. I think a lot of the times people, especially leaders, might have this like sense of responsibility where they hear something and they're like, now I have to give you advice. Maybe I have to give you a scripture that tells you what to do, or I have to, but oftentimes if someone is sharing something that's really personal and vulnerable and they already know like what they ought to be doing, like the knowledge is there, but it's really that struggle. Maybe it's a character struggle, maybe it's an emotional struggle, maybe they're mourning something, like that's when your response really shouldn't be like, this is what you should do, versus it should be more relationship oriented. Like, how can I love you in this moment? How can I care for you? How can I help strengthen you so that you can go through what you're going through, and come out victorious on the other side, you know?
Yeah. So listening is huge about creating those safe spaces.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Thank you, Abby. Well, Melissa, I have a question for you. What do you respect in a leader? What qualities do you respect in a leader?
I think along with what Abby was sharing about humility and being a good listener, I think communication is definitely a big thing. Being able to hear, you know, what someone else wants to say or concern, even if maybe that's not necessarily like the route they want to go, but being able to just have that safe space, like you were saying, of being heard. And I think the second thing too is being reaffirmed. It's very easy to feel like corrected all the time. And I think for my generation, it's helpful to also know what are we doing correctly, and building ourselves up in our confidence. I think the world just tells us a lot of all the things that we're not good at or that we're not good enough. And if we think that all the time, then it doesn't really build us up. And so I think that's one thing I really appreciate about a leader.
Great. Thank you, Melissa. I know that I'm hearing you say that show me what I did right rather than just correcting me all the time, right? That's what you mean. So, but in the same lines, I have like another question for you. So how would you like to be corrected? Obviously, we all need to go through correction in life. We all need advice and input, right? And so as a leader, sometimes we have the knowledge and experience and we want to be able to impart that to you, because we don't want you to make the same mistake, or we want you to learn from what we have gone through, right? So how would it help? Like, what way can I correct a younger person, probably? Like, which will be a way that will be more acceptable, you think?
I think having a balance is good. Being able to be corrected is definitely very important. I appreciate that. I want to be corrected in terms of just knowing like this is how I can be a better disciple or person or worker, and having that mentality is very important. One thing for sure, like Abby pointed out, is having that trust with somebody who is correcting me. I think respecting that person who is correcting me helps me a lot to know, okay, I know they're not just targeting me, but they genuinely want me to grow. And so I think what I was saying about having that balance of like, here are some things that, I really appreciated, and here are some things that I can see that you can grow in. I think understanding that it's not being targeted is important when I'm being corrected.
Wow, great insights. I think, even us who have been leaders for a while now, it's good for us to hear these things because, we were used to a different style of leadership when we were growing up. And, we tend to default on what what we're used to, right? But we want to be evolving. We want to grow. We want to continue to have the influence. And so hearing you guys speak, and you are sort of representing your generation to us in some sense, it is actually helpful, to know what works. And because our goal is to make it work, we want to be able to influence the next generation. We want to be able to inspire you guys. So this is really good. Thank you very much, Melissa.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, thank you both for sharing. I think we've gone away with some valuable nuggets. And like Rita said, it's very different from our generation and how we were trained. And so what I learned today is making sure that you all feel safe, believed in, affirmed. It's not that you don't want to be corrected, but the relationship and trust helps you take the correction and grow. So it's almost like a partnership, someone investing in you to raise you up. rather than trying to control or fix you,
Yeah.
because you feel that if someone is giving you the advice after you shared something, or if someone is not keeping things confidential. So got a lot to learn, Rita. So thank you for
Yes.
teaching us today.
Thank you, you wonderful women. And I know that you are busy with your lives and you are making an impact in your own way. So we encourage you and thank you and bless you and continue to want to inspire you and, help you along the way. So thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for making the time. Love you guys.
Thank you.
Guys.
It's good seeing you guys.